All right, let's try that again. Vikings fans, congratulations. You made it through the first big game of the season. Just kidding. It wasn't the first big game, but it was the first really close game from at the end that the Vikings made it through. And I've been one that's been critical of Kirk Cousins in the past, but you got to give him his props right here. He made the throw, and now you can make mention of what he did earlier in the game that he didn't do maybe enough at that point, but I got to give him credit. He made the big time throw, and granted, it was wide open, but I mean, KJ Osborne made the catch, big time throw. Offense finally did what they needed to do, and yeah, it was great to see that the Vikings were able to finally get the win. And yeah, just able to see that defense. They struggled throughout the course of the game, but I've got to give them props at the end for coming up with some huge stops, holding them to a field goal. The Lions barely. I mean, Jamal Williams, boy, I thought he was going to run for a first down there on that carry. Ends up 4 yards short, and the Lions end up missing another field goal. And I'm glad the Vikings didn't have to end up kicking a field goal at the end. But of course, then we had to see the Lions have a chance there at the end. And thank you, Josh Metellus. Redemption paid off as he came up with that interception there. So huge play made by the Viking defense there on that drive. And hopefully they can continue to, improve and continue to just hopefully not win as many games like this, because this game was just an absolute barn burner, man. Like, it was, like the Vikings. Here's Kirk. Kirk was bad. Yeah, I mean, he was bad for most of the game, but he made the throw. Too evil to hope. He made the throw when he needed to. I'm critical of him. I won't shy away from critiquing the rest of the game. He definitely had some moments where he just kind of looked lost, or there was lots of throws from the pocket, or I should say times when he was in the pocket when he had time to throw the football, and he just did not look to throw downfield, or if he did, there was nobody open, I should say, and he didn't run out of the pocket. He didn't scramble, and that's the one thing I wish Kirk would do more in those situations. But yeah, Pizza Ranch dictator. That's I get it, but it is nice to beat a team that you were supposed to beat. Like, the Vikings are supposed to win this game. Let's not get it confused. Like, the Lions are an improved football team, but if the Vikings are a competitor for this division, like, they've got to win these types of games, especially at home. Like, they almost ended up losing this thing. So, but yeah, obviously it's good to get a win. And hopefully the Vikings can continue to improve this season. The Saints don't look all that good, I will say that. So that's got to be encouraging if you're Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings next week. We'll, of course, hear from Kevin O'Connell later, and I'm sure we'll all look at the tape on that. But yeah, I thought it was interesting that Justin Jefferson just kind of was absent from this game. Like, he had like zero impact pretty much on this game, and it's exactly. Where did Jefferson go? It's a good question. I don't know if he's on vacation. It like Jeff Okudah, he's an okay cornerback, but come on, man. Like, we gotta be able to. If you're Justin Jefferson, you got to be able to win that. And I know there was some double coverage and going on here, but Justin Jefferson's got to step up. But also, most importantly, we've got to see some of these other receivers and tight ends step up. Like, are we starting to see that the Vikings maybe aren't as good with their wide receiver depth. I think that's something that we need to keep an eye on over the next couple of weeks, because Adam Thielen, he made a few big catches, but other than that, he was pretty absent, I thought, from the game. And then same thing with KJ Osborne until the final couple of minutes. It's almost like he just was out of the game. And then all of a sudden he comes into the game and, oh, he catches the winning touchdown. It was great. Awesome. We won the game. I'm glad about that. But there are some concerns heading forward for the Vikings that we've got to talk about. Now, again, the Lions are no pushover this year. They are probably a 500 team, and they probably are going to be at least competing to be a wild card team. I don't think they'll get there, but Dan Campbell is a great coach, at least in terms of being a player's coach. He knows how to get guys to play for him, and the Lions gave it everything. And you know, the Vikings did have lots of chances to lose this game, and you could argue they didn't deserve to win this game, but did the Lions even deserve to win this game? Because the Lions had multiple opportunities offensively as well, and they, you know, missed some field goals. They didn't go for it, or they didn't convert on a couple. And then yeah, so I mean they moved the ball well though, and there's got to be something done with Ed Donatell's defense. Like, he has got to get more pressure on Goff. We saw that more at the end of the game, I thought, where you saw the last throw that Goff made. The pressure got to him finally, and he threw up a duck for Metellus, just kind of threw one up there just to see if anybody could come down with it for Detroit, and the Vikings came down with it. But yeah, other than that, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of pressure on Goff today, but I think when we did see pressure on him, there was some really not as great throws from Goff. There was a couple of times he was able to step away from pressure. I'll grant him that and make some throws. I will grant him that, but most of the time I felt like when the Vikings did bring pressure, which wasn't much, it seemed like his throws were rushed and they were more inaccurate. So, and that's something that we've seen Kirk struggle with. We've seen Goff struggle with it, and you could probably say Goff and Kirk are similar in that regard. I still think Kirk is probably the better quarterback, but man, Goff, other than that, other than kind of the second half, maybe, I guess he's kind of been inconsistent too. He's got a lot of good things that has happened for him this year, but he's been inconsistent for sure. But go ahead and make sure you put in your comments down below. I wanted to mention too, email the Skol Purple Podcast at gmail.com if you want to join. I'm waiting for somebody to respond here to try and get them on here, and hopefully I can get him on. New guy, and he's also a fan, so trying to get some more fans involved here, and hopefully we can hear their opinions, their questions, their thoughts, and yeah, it's just fun to talk with all of you guys. I'm a Vikings fan. We're all Vikings fans. We're all in this together, so we're trying to get together and talk about why this, what's going on with the team. You know, we're trying to also help people keep grounded. You know, not be too high, not be too low. There is a definite art to that. I think so. Yeah, make sure you go ahead and put questions in the comments section. We'll try and get him in here momentarily. Darren, I believe, David, excuse me. So David hopefully will join me here. And then, yeah, like they said, the early game next Sunday, part of me is like happy that it's an early game. Like, we can wake up and there's football. And then after that, it's like, well, now you can enjoy the fact that you can just watch football, or maybe not enjoy, depending on how the game went. But we will have another fan line next week as well after the Vikings Saints game. So make sure fan express line, I should say. And yeah, make sure to send your comments in the comment section. And even if it's after the fact, if you're watching this after the stream has taken place. Make sure to put your comments from the game, and I'll try and circle back to those. Whether it's in another stream, whether it's in another, whether it's just commenting back to you. I want to be able to encourage um, interaction here. So again, Vikings defeat the Lions 28-24 in a stunning fashion. Uh, in a in It was just a fantastic few minutes there for the Vikings where they were able to get multiple stops. The defense that last 3 drives or so from the Lions, they allowed yards, and that was something the Vikings have allowed quite a bit of this season at different times. And I thought even in the Green Bay loss, that second half, they were starting to allow, or Green Bay win rather, they were starting to allow quite a few um, runs that went well for Green Bay, a lot of short passes, and we saw kind of some of that from Detroit today. We got David joining here now. David, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. I kind of like what I saw at the end of the game. It
Yeah,
wasn't too bad. I was a little bit worried, going into it. I think Kevin O'Connell has to learn, with that play calling with those two long field goals that resulted in 2 scores that kind of put us back. Like
yeah,
that can't happen. Like I don't care what Greg Joseph is doing them, before the game. 56-yard field goals, you're not going to make those consistently. But I like the
yeah,
fight that they had in there, and what people need to notice too that with KJ Osborne and everybody else, Johnny Munt, actually contributing to the offense is going to make JJ be open a little bit more now. Now teams can't just focus on him and take him away and say they're taking away the whole offense. Now Kurt's getting back to spreading the ball. I like what I saw. I'm just kind of disappointed about Dalvin, but if you're a
yeah.
Viking fan, you can expect Dalvin to be out every year.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think Dalvin, we love Dalvin. We know he's got the ability to run the ball well. Obviously, this year hasn't been a best start for him, but when he's out there, he's got the ability to carry the load for the Vikings, and we've seen him do it many times. But yeah, the injury bug has definitely been a part of Dalvin's career. And to be fair, the running back position is one of those positions where it's just really hard to stay healthy for long periods of time. I mean, we've saw like Adrian Peterson. I mean, even he had the ACL injury.
Right.
I mean, other than that, I feel
Meniscus
like,
injury.
yep, the meniscus, yep, all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely something that goes around running backs for sure. But it'll be interesting to see if the Vikings, how the Vikings play it next year, because I heard that the Vikings would be able to free up like $8 million in cap space next year if they let go of Dalvin Cook. And obviously, Alexander Madison is probably gone as well. So you're going to have Ty Chandler and Kene Wongwu as the 2 guys that are on the roster next year. But I know we're getting kind of ahead of ourselves. What are some of your other thoughts from the game, David? What did you think of the defense? Obviously, they stepped up towards the end, but they were kind of shaky for most of the game.
The defense, I really don't like what I'm seeing. Um, just to be perfectly brutally honest, I think that shell defense that Donatello's running is not working. Like these guys are actually just playing pitch and catch like they're in practice. And the Darius Smith and Danielle Hunter, I'm watching the game and I'm rewinding it back. I see Danielle Hunter in coverage sometimes, which doesn't really make sense to me. Like the guy's never played coverage before. I understand he's considered an outside linebacker, edge or whatever, but you can't put him in coverage because he's never done that before. So Darius Smith can, but I'm just not seeing them get consistent pressure. They got it at the end of the game, which kind of changed the game. But those corners are playing way too soft and 5-8 yards out. And the routes they're just running underneath it, pitch and catch all day. I don't know what they have to do. Patrick Peterson had a pretty good game, breaking up a couple of passes. Dantzler had an okay game, but still, like this defense needs to get a little bit better. It has to. Some of the facets of the defense have to. We need more push from that D line. Edge rushers need to go out there and actually get to the quarterback. Something. This is where I miss Mike Zimmer, where he can kind of scheme up something.
Yeah, it's weird that we're talking about missing Mike Zimmer here the first 3 weeks, but yeah, I mean it's based on what Ed Donatel has shown. The last 2 weeks, week one looked pretty good. I mean, I still think there was some concern in that second half, like I was saying before we brought you on
Right.
here. I do think that that's going to be something to be concerned about going forward. Is can the Vikings make those adjustments defensively? Can Donatel make those adjustments defensively? Because if he can't, like, you're not putting your team in the best position to go out there. You're not putting your players in the best position to go out there and make a stop. If you're going to just allow these corners to play off like these wide receivers, like next week too, like Chris Olave, the rookie for the Saints, and Michael Thomas, I
Thomas.
don't know if he's injured or not, but he's always he's been a good receiver when he's healthy. So those guys are going to be able to run those short routes and probably make these Vikings defensive backs look silly. I think maybe they're just afraid of getting beat deep too much, that they really think that it's better to just play underneath, make the quarterback throw the ball underneath, but it's not working so far.
It's not working. It's not working. I don't know, and I'm kind of disappointed in too. Like I seen Brian Asamoah make a couple of splashy plays on special teams. Him and Lewis seen. I mean, scheme something up to where you can blitz scene, take Hicks out or somebody out, where you can just scheme something up to where you can get a little bit more speed on defense to kind of blitz where guys are not going to see it. I mean, I just don't think Donatel is really working with the players that he has and put him in the right positions. Like I really like to go back to the Danielle Hunter. I don't want to see the Danielle Hunter in coverage at all. Like I just think that's a waste. It's a waste.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is a lot to ask Danielle Hunter to be good in coverage at this point.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not that I don't think he can't do it, because I think he could if he was given more time to learn it. But yeah, just asking him to learn how to be a cover linebacker in just one off season, that's a lot to ask.
Yeah, it's a lot, especially when the guy been having his hands in the ground his whole career. You
Yeah.
know, is asking a lot. I mean, just Kendricks played well, Hicks played well, but it's like that D line and those edge rushers and those corners. They have to figure out something. I don't know if a healthy Harrison Smith changes things, or maybe Andrew Booth comes in there and spells a couple
Yep.
of guys, but I don't know. It's still the same coverages. They're still playing that shell defense.
Yeah, I don't even know if I saw Lewis Seen on the field at all today. Like, that's
Yeah, he was playing
something
special
that,
teams. He had a couple of tackles on
okay.
special teams during the kickoff, and I'm thinking like, that's your first round pick. He
Yeah,
needs
what
to be like, especially with Harrison not playing, like he needs to be
yeah.
playing.
Yeah, and God bless Josh Metellus. I think he's an okay backup, but man, I you got a first round pick, like you said, sitting on the bench. Like, get him in there, man.
Just blitz him. I just
Yeah.
throw him in for blitz packages. I mean,
Yep.
he's that fast and he's that big. He's probably as tall as Eric Kendricks and Jordan Hicks, just a little
Mhm.
bit slimmer. I mean, he's
Yep.
actually bigger than Asamoah. So it's kind of like, just put him in there and just blitz him.
Yeah.
Like, do something.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they need
That's
to
for
get
sure.
some pressure. So I don't. That's just what I'm just kind of like, down about. Miami just beat Buffalo, so we still have to play them.
Yep.
Dontel needs to get it together before the Buffalo game. So I mean, for the
Yeah.
Miami game with those
Yeah.
speedsters, what are they gonna do?
Yeah, I still have the Vikings. Boy, it was very close to going the other way. I still have the Vikings going undefeated into the bye, obviously after the loss to Philadelphia. But I have them winning these next two games as well, not into the bye, and I should say into the Miami game. And then I have them losing to
Uh-huh.
Miami. That's kind of what my record prediction was to start the season. I'm going to probably stick with that because, yeah, I think a lot of those issues, if they don't resurface here in the next couple of games, which hopefully not, because I don't think the Saints are all that great of a team, and the
No,
Bears, we know what they are at this point too.
exactly.
But I think that Miami game, man, Tua looks
Yeah,
good,
it
and
was good.
those wide receivers are probably the best. That's probably going to be the best wide receiver duo we'll face, at least until the Buffalo game. Like,
Right.
that's a tough
The track
group
meet.
to try and go against.
It's a full out track meet. I mean, I don't know if Peterson can keep people ahead of him, and so is Dantzler. Those guys are fast. I know we're looking ahead, but Dontel has to do something, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if he has to get in the office with Mike Pitton or something. They have to figure something out. Like, borrow some stuff from what Zim has done the past couple of years, and just do that just to try to keep the defense honest. But just giving up too many yards and it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Just they can't stop the run, can't stop the pass, and and Detroit just really didn't respect this, with especially going down with all those those fourth down conversions. Like that's just no respect. That's what Green Bay used to do to us back in the day, and it's like I didn't like that. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, this is again the Skol Purple Podcast Fan Express line. Make sure to put a comment in the comment section if you have any questions, if you have any comments on how the Vikings performed in the game. And don't forget, email skolpurplepodcast@gmail.com if you'd like to join the show. Express your thoughts from the game. David and I would love to hear your thoughts. David, I am interested to get your thoughts right now while we wait for more comments and stuff on the Vikings offense, because the Vikings offense, we know they weren't great in week 2. They were pretty good in week 1. I still would have liked to seen one more touchdown in that second half of week 1. And then, for that most of that first half, until they finally tied it up at 14, there was a good portion where the offense was missing.
Right.
And then we saw the offense go away a little bit in that third quarter, and then they came back. It's like we got to find some consistency here. Is that on Kevin O'Connell? Is that on the players? Is it a little bit of both? What's your take?
I think it's on Kevin O'Connell, considering he came from the Rams where they didn't have a fullback. I think having a fullback in this offense is key because it helps protect Kirk Cousins a little bit better, and it gives our running backs a lead blocker who always had a lead blocker. I know that Dalvin can play single back, and so can Madison can shake the defense and get yards. But having CJ Ham in there as the fullback helps the offense out a lot. Like 11 personnel, I don't think we can do it, but it shouldn't be doing it consistently. I think the offense, CJ Ham on the offense is key, because with the offensive line being a little bit shaky, that gives Kirk a little bit of blocker, and it gives him a little bit more time to look for plays downfield. And I think O'Connell came from the Rams where they didn't use a fullback at all, and he needs to really start dialing up plays with the fullback. You see the beginning of the game when CJ was in there, Cook was just running through a lane behind him, because that's what they're used to. Like you can't just come from a team where a different philosophy and bring that philosophy from over there when you don't have those players. You got to adjust. And I just think like the offense, he needs to spread the ball around a little bit more. I really like what KD did at the end of the game. Thielen is just Thielen. Like I have no reason why Thielen wasn't targeted the past game, and especially in Philly. Like it just makes no sense. And I think like Justin Jefferson is great, but you're gonna have to be creative and find different ways to get him the ball, because people are just gonna double cover him, put him in the backfield sometimes, and stuff like that. Like you have to figure it out. If Kevin O'Connell is this offensive whiz kid and his crazy mind like he is, you need to figure it out as soon as possible.
Yep. And JJ was well covered, it seemed, for the most part. My friend Rap, who's the Purple Pocket podcast, he does a really good job too. He mentioned that something that I thought is interesting, and now, especially watching this game, I'm kind of starting to believe, is that he feels like Justin Jefferson is one of those guys that has to get going early to be effective. And we saw him do that in the Green Bay game. He got going early, and that was able to kind of carry him throughout the game. He wasn't able to get going early on last week, and definitely wasn't able to do it this week. Right. Do you kind of feel like that's maybe something, there might be something there for that?
I don't think he needs to get early, get open, or get going early. I think it's the play calling. Like the offensive line is not great. So to get him going throughout the game and all the other receivers, I'm not just worried about JJ. I'm worried about everybody else catching the ball needs to get going too. Yeah. These longer developing plays down the field, you can't start the game doing that. You need to start the game with shorter, medium passes to get guys in rhythm, all guys in rhythm, not just JJ. I think you got to just put JJ in the slot. You got to put him in the backfield. You got to put him wide. You got to put him in trips. You got to do something. It just can't be the same thing, like it was. Because to be honest, this felt like Zimmer was coaching this team today, especially with.
I felt that way last week.
Yeah, with the Kubiak offense, the kid Kubiak offense, not Gary's offense. the kid Kubiak. So it's kind of like what's changed. And I think O'Connell is going to deal with that pressure, especially coming from fans. It's like if you're not going to have this top open explosive offense, then it's kind of like you're not really that whiz kid that we thought you was. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's definitely a fine line with Kevin O'Connell. Like, yes, we haven't maybe seen as much creativity the last couple of weeks, but maybe is part of that because the players aren't executing. Maybe is it partly because they're not maybe doing it well in practice enough where he feels comfortable doing that kind of thing on game day. Like I hate to put it all on the coach. I mean, obviously he needs to
right?
take some of the blame, but I think there's maybe something to that too. Like, what are these players comfortable running in the game? And
Exactly.
Kirk Cousins, we know Kirk Cousins is a guy that he has like comfort is something that he likes to have. Like he needs to know what's going on. Like he's very system oriented. He needs the details to be correct. And if there's one little detail off that he hasn't figured out yet,
The
then
whole game's over.
yeah, yeah. So, and that's another question I was going to ask you about because you and I, this is the first time we've talked face to face, obviously. So, we're I kind of have a feeling I know where you're going, but what are your thoughts on Kirk Cousins? I've never heard your take on Cousins.
I love Kirk. The reason why I love Kirk is he's the Iron Man. Like a lot of times people are saying that, I know that Kirk is not the best quarterback in the league. I understand that, but he has to have everything perfect, which is never going to happen. But a lot of people don't understand. Like, let's say you take Kirk off this team. Some of these quarterbacks don't even play 16 games a season. Kirk
Yeah.
does. And that's going to give you the chance to win. But Kirk is just a typical system quarterback, and he has to have the good system. And why I'm saying I love Kirk because he can make every throw, he can make every play, but you have to get him going in rhythm, and you can't expect Kirk to be the gunslinger that Stafford was because he's not. He's never done that in his career. So why
Mhm.
are we asking him just to be slinging the ball like that? Just let Kirk play within the offense that he wants to run, and I feel like Kirk needs to take the initiative as a leader and say, "Hey, look, Kevin, this is what I like to do with these guys. This is what I think can get it done the right way and go for it from there." Because I mean, to me, the best ability is availability,
Mhm.
and Kirk's always available.
Yep.
So I mean,
One thing I would like to see Kirk do more. We saw him do it a couple of times in the Philadelphia game where he checked things at the line of scrimmage. I think we
right,
saw him do it once today.
audibled out
Um,
some plays, change things
yeah,
around. Yeah,
yeah, and what I would really like to see him do, and maybe I'm guessing he would have the permission to do this. I would hope so. Is be able to change protections at the line because there
yeah,
was a few times where it looked pretty obvious that they were bringing pressure. Detroit was bringing
right,
pressure, and it's like, how do you not see that at the line of scrimmage, man? Like, you got to make that read. Either you got to change the play altogether and be like, okay, we're going to throw this little quick screen or
right,
something,
right.
or we're going to have to bring another guy in here to protect. Like, I think there's got to be something to be said with the quarterback being able to make plays like that, adjustments like that at the line of scrimmage. And I don't think Kirk's done that through much of his tenure with the Vikings. And I don't know if he's got the permission. Like I said, I would imagine Kevin O'Connell's given him that permission
Yeah.
just based on what we've seen so far and what we've heard of Kevin O'Connell. But it doesn't seem like Kirk is really owning that part yet.
I think he just relies on Bradbury to make the protections at the line, and then he just goes from there. But that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Like as a quarterback, you have to be a leader to say like, look, we got to check down with this. We got to change this hot route. We got to figure this out. Like you have to go in there and like change plays. I know you remember when Brett Favre with the Vikings, when Chili would call run plays, and Brett would be like, "Nah, we're not doing that." You know,
Yep.
yeah, like,
Yep.
"Nah, we're not doing that. We're gonna pass the ball down the field." And even though Brett probably threw some interceptions or whatever, that offense was potent. It was a potent offense.
Yeah.
Like, Kirk has to do things like that. Like, all right, cool. Like they're blitzing. Let's change it up a little bit. Let's do a screen or something. But you just that's that's what you get with Kirk Cousins. I
Yep.
mean, you got to take the good and the bad. Like
Yep.
you just gotta take the good and the bad, and it's like, hey, he's available, so he's our quarterback. I mean, since
Yep.
I've been a Viking fan since like '97, I mean, we've had the Dantes, we had all these other guys who run around, and these guys never play 16 games, 17 games. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's seasons are over. Kirk knows not how to get hurt, and he gets hit a lot.
Yeah.
So
I think we're going to be told a lot about this team in the next 2 weeks.
yes, I think so
Because
too.
because if we go out there the next couple of games and we win by double digits both games, which I think we should do against those two teams that we're going to be
Right.
playing, I think then things are looking like okay. I think maybe things have kind of settled down. We're starting to figure out the offense. The defense maybe is coming along a little bit better.
Hopefully,
But at the same time, you look at it and you go, well, what if they lose to the Saints and they barely beat the Bears, for example? Like, then what are you thinking? Like, like that if they go 1-1 in those next two games, like that concerns me as a Vikings fan, at least in terms of this season. And to be fair, I know Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, he said that this was a competitive rebuild. So yes, we'll be competitive, but at the same time, like you can't necessarily be expecting this team to be a Super Bowl contender. But I think that's what the Wilfs want, and I think that's what fans are expecting.
yeah. With the Wilfs, their whole mentality is, sit there, let's just be competitive and competitive, and make the playoffs a couple of years here and there, and maybe we can like go on a run sometimes. But your team has to be built to go on those runs in the playoffs. Right as of right now, the way the team is constructed, and I love my team, like they have a lot of flaws that they have to look at. So even if they do make the playoffs, I don't want to see a first round exit. I don't. I
Yeah.
want to see them try to at least go deep in the NFC title game, even though we're cursed in the NFC title game. I mean,
Yeah.
I would like to see something like that.
At least in
But
my lifetime.
yeah, we're cursed. But I I don't know. I don't know. If they do 1-1, still football. There's still a lot of football left, but these two teams that they play next, they should go in there, take care of business, get it done. Go on a winning streak, go on a bye, come back and check out the season then. But yeah,
Yeah. Yep. Very good. Yeah. All right. Very good. Let's see. Anything else that you want to hit on in this game specifically? I think one thing I'm interested to see is I still think the secondary's got a lot of improving to do and still a lot of growth to do. And I think part of that is Ed Donatel realizing that maybe it is better to put some more press on the corners in the
yeah,
scheme. But man, I don't know. Some of these corners, I know Detroit's an improved receiving core,
right.
but at the same time, like
They're playing pitch
they
and
got to
catch.
step up. Yeah,
Yeah, they're playing pitch and catch, 5, 8 yards out. I think what I want to see going forward, Jalen Rager. This
yeah,
guy was a first round talent. He was drafted before JJ. I'm not saying that was a good thing, not saying it was a bad thing, but there was a reason why he was a first round talent. I need to see him get a little bit more incorporated within the offense, even if it's screenplays or jet sweeps, something like that, just to get some, speed, a little bit more speed on the offense. That's going to take away some of of everybody looking at JJ. Like when I saw Rager going today, and he had that little screen pass, even though he ran the wrong way. I mean, he could have ran for a first down, but he ran right to the defensive guy. Um, I want to see some more stuff like that. Just get some speed out there. I want to see Wangu, out there some more. Get him a couple of screen passes and here and there. Just
yeah,
let's not be the Kubiak offense where it's just so predictable of what the Vikings are going to do.
right,
You have these talented players at your disposal. Just use them.
yeah.
Use all of them.
Well, and like you were saying, like the creativity with getting Justin Jefferson open, I think that's something that we saw a ton of in week one. I'd be interested to see in the stats, like how many times has Justin Jefferson actually lined up in the slot the last
Right.
couple of games? How many times has he been in the backfield? I remember it a couple times, I think, last week, but I don't think there was any times I saw him back
No,
there this week.
not today. Yeah,
Yeah,
they got. He has to be a little bit more creative. I think maybe what Kwesi should have done is hire some kind of offensive consultant just to kind of help out O'Connell, with the offense, considering he's never called plays before. So This is his first time calling plays. I mean, I know he has Mike Pitton there, but Mike Pitton is basically there to help out Donatel with with the defense.
Yeah.
Like you got to get some kind of these creative minds that's going to think of something. Like everyone wants the next McVay, but there's never going to be the next McVay. McVay is only of one of one, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And Shanahan runs his version of the offense. LaFleur wants his version. Kevin O'Connell wants his version. Everyone has their own different version of that McVay offense. I just think that first time head coaches should have some kind of consultant that they can talk to and say like, hey, what am I seeing here? Oh, you're doing this, wrong. This could be done better. Something like that. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sort of kind of like how Gary, was the consultant while Stefanski was the offensive coordinator. Something like that, where you knew it was Gary's offense, but Stefanski was running it. So Kubiak kind of guided him through on how to, this is what to look for and stuff like that. I think O'Connell should have thought of that, him and Quasey.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the Vikings have a little bit of that with the actual offensive coordinator, Wes Phillips. But yeah, I think the more minds you can get back there,
right,
the more collaboration, right, that we can see.
We've been hearing it all season. collaboration.
But yeah, I've got to wonder how much collaboration is going on the defensive side, because there's got to be somebody that said, you would think by now, like, hey, why are we continually trying to cover these receivers with zone coverage and we're playing off of them? How many times is it going to take? How many big plays, or I shouldn't say big plays, they're trying to avoid the big play, it seems like, by the way they're doing it.
But it's still happening.
Yeah, the 5 to 10 to 15-yard plays, they're what should end up being those only kind of plays. We saw the underneath route earlier in the Detroit game that wasn't a touchdown, like a 30-yard touchdown ended up being. So it's like those underneath plays, eventually, if you keep giving them up, they're going to turn into bigger plays down the field.
Yeah, they're just moving the chains down the field.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't give an offense 8 yards, 10 yards. They're getting first downs consistently. Like I think it's probably going to be the players that's going to speak up. Maybe we need a mutiny like we have with Zimmer, where the cornerbacks just go out there and do their own thing. Maybe we need something like that.
Yeah,
a Terrence Newell mutiny or something, where they just say, forget about Dontel, we're gonna do this something. But they gotta figure it out. I really want to see Dancer press a little bit more. He's too young. He's playing too safe. He's giving average receivers too much cushion. Yeah, too much cushion. That's kind of the reason why I want to see Booth play, because Booth reminds me a lot of Xavier Rhodes. I remember Xavier Rhodes came. He got a lot of penalties and a lot of holding, pass interference, but you're going to get that with young corners. And Booth is the kind of guy who wants to agitate the receiver across from him. Like these guys are just being nice to him. Hey, you want to get 5 yards out? There you go. Pitch and catch. Then I'll attack you. I don't think Booth is going to do that. So they got to change something with these corners. Literally.
Yeah, that is for sure. Let's see. Let's talk a little bit about special teams. We did briefly hit on that. The couple of 56-yarders. Yes. Would you have rather the Vikings punted on both of those, or maybe gone for it on one of them? Where are you kind of leaning on with that?
Considering there's a rookie punter, I just thought about this. He really punts the ball pretty deep. Yeah. Maybe O'Connell goes for it in those situations when it's 50 yards, by 50 yards field goals, because maybe he can't push punt it. Maybe he can't punt for 30 yards and it's just going to be a touchback, and you rather just either get a missed field goal or go forward on fourth down, and you're going to be right there in the spot anyway. Maybe he's not experienced in that. Me personally, I would have just either went for it or punted something.
Yeah.
Or even threw an interception in the end zone. Who cares? Some they're going to be at 20.
I think there is something to be said. It seems like both times he missed, they were both on and they pointed it out on the broadcast that it was on the end of the field where the big gates were open.
Right.
And so I'm wondering if that had an effect on the trajectory of the ball, because it looked like, when he kicked it, both times, maybe it just slices away. Right. The first one was just, not really even close. The second one,
Detroit's kicker did the same thing. So maybe, Maybe it's something there. Maybe you tell the groundskeeping king or kicking field goals, go close the door real quick or something.
Yeah. Open it when they are kicking, and then when
Yeah. It's
switch
like
it
the
up when.
Metrodome when they used to funnel the sound behind the visitors' bench, something like that, you know?
That's right. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
But special teams is not a. They're pretty good on special teams. Like as long as guys aren't fumbling or muffing punts, or something like that, or it's not too bad. I just feel like those 56 yarders, you got to punt it or go for it in that situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's too early to be trying to kick these long field goals, even though he can do it. It's just let's not do that.
Yeah.
Not do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, let's talk a little bit about going forward here. Next week the Saints, and then the Bears, and then the Dolphins, and then the bye week. So you get 3 more games. You started 2-1. I mean, it's maybe more of an unconventional way, or maybe more an unexpected way of it happening than what it did, but it happened. You're 2-1. You got to be pretty okay with how things have gone in terms of the win-loss record.
Right.
Obviously, there's lots of things to correct and stuff. But how do you feel about this team going into the next couple of games?
I feel they should get the win against New Orleans. And when I'm saying getting the win against New Orleans is they got to go in there and be aggressive early so Donatello can kind of play with the defense at the end of the game when the game doesn't matter, because we all know James is going to throw the Vikings the ball a couple of times. So
Yep.
we know that's going to happen. So that's going to be the game where I think Donatello should kind of test the corners and see if they can press a little bit more, try to throw in some couple of schemes, try it on that team. And then, coming back to Chicago, that should be a win too. But it's actually going to be a little bit harder because I don't know if Donatello can actually scheme up defense that's going to stop a running quarterback. He couldn't even. Hurts just ran around the whole time. Nobody really spied him consistently, nothing like that. And then bye week to Miami. So I think they have to take these next 2 games and figure this defense out and kind of even off the offense. They have to really get down to the nitty gritty and figure it out, because after the bye comes, hey, it's football needs to be played. It's all business after that. There's
Yep.
I'm not going to call another team cupcake because it's all football, but
Yep.
they got to figure some things out before they get to the Miamis and the Buffaloes and all these other teams,
Yeah, because honestly, right now, I could see us losing very similarly to how we did against Philadelphia to both Miami and Buffalo.
Right.
Honestly,
Right. Me
and
too.
honestly, it could be worse because
Yeah,
I
it could
think
be
both of
worse.
those offenses are probably even better than Philadelphia's
Right.
offense.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So they have to figure some things out, like Donatello's defense. That's my biggest worry. I think the offense with Kirk can kind of steady the offense and figure things out, but a good defense and a good offense really kind of like makes a team better. Kirk can't go 3 and out so many times. He has to be out there and play a little bit longer with the offense to keep the kind of defense, fresh. Like what happened in Philadelphia, just too many 3 and outs. The defense is out there majority of the game, so those guys get gassed, and
yeah.
we can't do that.
Yep.
These
100%.
all these parts have to play together.
Yep.
They have to be complementary, and going forward, they got to figure it out. They have to figure it out. I think that the shell defense is number 1 for me.
Yeah. Yep, I think that's going to be interesting to keep an eye on going forward. Is if the Vikings will actually make adjustments. Like we've been expecting it, because we're like, all right, Kevin O'Connell, like he seems like a bright young mind. He seems like somebody that's going to be willing to make adjustments if he does, screw up, whatever.
Right.
And we haven't seen that, at least from Donatel's point of view, and maybe we haven't seen it maybe quite as much as we want to from O'Connell yet. I think maybe he did that a little bit in that fourth quarter, and then obviously when the Vikings scored those 14 points, but there's just too much inconsistency right now. Like
Right.
there's got to be more consistency, instead of this, oh, we're going to score 14 after the other team does, and then, oh, we're going to come back and win after the other
Yeah.
team takes a 10-point lead. Like you can't
Right.
have that on a consistent
You
basis.
can't have that. Just offense needs to level off and kind of, be a little bit more consistent. And to go back to Donato, I really didn't like after his press conference when he just called out Dantzler. I
Yeah.
didn't. I didn't like that at
That's not a
all.
good way to start
Yeah, it's
as
not a
defense
good way. And it's
coordinator.
like, yeah, there's a reason why you've been a defensive coordinator your whole career, and you never really had any head coaching gigs, because like that just reminded me of a Zimmer, throwing the quarterback, you know, behind the bus. Like, oh, we seen this guy in practice. Like, those some things you shouldn't even say. Like, yeah, dude, you said Dantzler, made a bad play or whatever, but the defense that you're running is not working.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
it takes like you have the head coach go out there and take full accountability, and the guy up under him, defensive coordinator, is like, well, the players are not doing the job.
Right.
It's like, okay, this guy might be fired next by game 6 if he keeps
Yep.
that mentality up. Yeah,
Yep.
I got a bet going with my buddies saying Donatel's going to get fired before the season ends.
Well, I tell you what, if it ends up staying like the way it has been these first 3 games, I for sure think he's gone at the end of the season,
Yeah,
because and honestly, if it continues the way it does, like through the bye week, like I could see him being fired after the Miami game, depending on
me
how that
too.
goes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if Miami just runs up the score 30-something points, and offenses doesn't really get going, and the reason why they can't do anything because the defense is just too leaky, you got to get rid of the guy. I mean,
And yeah, and I think the
he's an older
creativity.
he's an older defensive coordinator. Basically, it's like you got Mike Zimmer as the defensive coordinator right now. Older, gritty guy, and more defensive coordinators are normally like that, especially the older ones.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, all right, we got to figure some things out.
And I think we mentioned the creativity of the offense kind of decreasing the last couple of weeks. I think the creativity of the defense too, because
Exactly.
maybe we saw a little bit of that with Zadarius Smith being able to, start on the edge and then come
Yeah,
inside like he did a couple of different times today.
right.
But maybe that was just Smith being Smith. I don't
That's
know.
Smith. That's Smith being Smith, because he has his coach from Green Bay. That his basic thing is like find the weakest point on the offensive line, and we're gonna let you roam and exploit that, which is fine. But your corners on the outside are playing too far back, so it's gonna take some time for Z to get there. So by the time Zadarius Smith gets there, that ball is already out, and it's a first down. So
Right.
it's kind of like Zadarius Smith can do that, but the adjustment has to be on the outside. Like, yeah,
Yep.
and then you got the Neil Hunter guarding running backs or a couple of receivers in the flat, which he's not accustomed to doing. That's when it's on Donatel at that point.
Yeah. Yep. And I am interested to see, because I made a video the other day about kind of Jordan Hicks and Eric Kendricks maybe not being as good in the run game. I think they both are pretty. We saw them do some good things in the pass game today, but running defense, I think, is something the Vikings will have to continue to improve on as the season goes along. And I'm not so sold on Kendricks and Hicks as run defenders right now.
I am. I think
Okay.
I think they're pretty good. I just think it's the guys in front of them. Like,
Okay.
the
The
only
Phillips
consistent,
and the
yeah, Phillips
Tomlinson.
and Tomlinson and Bullard. I think
Yeah.
it's the guys in front of them.
Okay.
It's just the fact, like, it's like it goes back to what I said before. You can't bring your philosophy from a 3-4 to a 4-3 team. You only got a couple of different guys. There's a different type of D line. And then you got Daniil standing up. So it's kind of like that takes a little bit of the coverage away from what Kendrick should be doing or Hicks should be doing, depending on what side it is. You got Z on the other side, you got Daniil on the other side. And sometimes these guys have to drop in coverage, and it's like, all right, you don't do that. You see at the end of the game all the plays that Kendrick and Hicks are making. Kendrick almost had an interception at the end of the game, but that's just what he does. He can cover it pretty well. It's just you need more beef in the front. I know Thomason is huge, and and Phillips is huge also. You just need a little bit more beef in the on that D line.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see if the Vikings maybe try and rotate in Patrick Jones and DJ Wanham a little bit more, so that way you could have like four kind of more athletic and maybe not as bulky guys, but then maybe that would affect the run defense in a negative way. I don't know. Maybe those guys are good in the run. We haven't seen maybe enough of them to fully make a judgment call either way on that.
You gotta take some notes from Steve Spagnuolo back in the day when he was a defensive coordinator over there in New York on how he got the job with the Rams. I think it was called like the Jet package, where you had O.C. Umenure, Justin Tuck, and Michael Strahan on the D line together, and you just rushing guys. Like maybe he has to think of something like that where he puts the nil on the line, with DJ Wanham, Patrick Jones, whoever, and just rush the passer that way, get a little speed or whatever. Just like with Zimmer, in a playoff game against New Orleans when he moved the nail on the inside.
Yeah.
You got to do something like that.
Yep. 100%. They've got to be more creative going forward. Like, I don't know what they're waiting for. Like they almost lost another game today. Like, man, if we could have been having a lot more different conversation after this game, if KJ, like, even if they convert, like, boy, like I was saying before you came on, like Jamal Williams was close to picking up that first down on that third down.
Yeah,
like,
he was.
And that should not have even been that close.
No.
Like, why would you think they were throwing the ball there? Like, why wouldn't they run there? You don't have any timeouts. You need to run the ball to keep the clock down. Like, what? Like, that just was mind-boggling to me.
Detroit.
I mean, yeah.
They're the Lions. That's what they do. I mean, yeah, it needs to get figured out. This defense is just really going to be the Achilles heel of his team going forward, and we keep going back to it because it's what it is. The defense, like the offense, is going. I think the offense has to take time to get the philosophy together, and where guys need to be. But this defense needs to get a whole lot better. It needs to do better. Yeah.
Yep, and I will say I did like the response to adversity this week compared to last week. I think they improved on that. That's one area where I was happy to see the Vikings improve because last week, boy, adversity hit them in the face and they were not able to respond.
Yeah, it was like, oh, we're down. It's halftime. We're down. We're not going to try to come back. Yeah, but they won it. So even if it's a ugly win or a pretty win, I'm taking the win any day.
Wins are wins, right?
Wins are wins.
That's right. That's right. Very good, David. Hey, well, man, appreciate you joining today, and hopefully we'll get you back on again sometime. Hopefully, maybe we can make this a regular thing. You come on the Fan Express line and give us your thoughts.
No problem.
Man.
No problem. Open to it. Thank you. Skol Vikings.
Yeah. Take care, man. And we're gonna actually get rolling right now too. Hope you enjoyed this edition of the Skol Purple podcast and the Fan Express line. Looking forward to seeing what the Vikings can do next week. Again, we'll have a Fan Express line next week. I will have a preview of the Saints-Vikings games with a Saints reporter as well coming up in the future as well. So, coming up next week. So make sure to stay tuned on our podcast YouTube channel for that, on our social media at Skol Purple Pod. And as always, Skol.